waking up from cryo, having no memory, and feeling abandoned alone against the world. Tectonica hits with all the tropes straight out the box. But that's not a bad thing, as it gives you a grounded familiarity to start with, before throwing its unique style and gameplay mechanics at you in this underground factory game. Good day to you my friends, I'm Kenator, and thanks to the devs for sending me a review key. Now let's get to it. Tectonica has made the big jump out of early access to 1.0, and that has brought a big change to the game. Now while I haven't played any of the early access, as far as I understand it, the game used to be one really big underground map. Well, you are still underground, but the game and its story now revolve around escaping the underground through a self-repairing and self-digging mineshaft. Just feed it ever stronger drill heads and watch it unlock up to 16 floors above you that you can explore and exploit on your journey. Not only this, the elevator shaft also acts as the only automatic way to transfer items between the floors. The game introduces things nicely and has great onboarding, and it's not long before you have your own machines up and running in this factory game. Everything factory related is built on a fixed grid, which makes aligning really easy. But the world itself is voxel based. And while you do start with your trusty pickaxe, the game wastes no time in giving you this weird energy-based ground-destroying weapon called the Mole. And you can use this to dig out pretty much all the terrain of that entire level. Dig your own tunnels, flatten out entire areas, you name it. But with each floor being quite generously sized, you should manage to keep some of the original style of each floor intact. And you might want to do that because it looks amazing. During my 100-hour playthrough, I actually tried to keep most of the floors intact as long as I could because of the stunning array of colours and textures that decorated each floor. Stripping it back felt like a crime when I had to do it for more space. Thankfully, there were plenty of cosmetic build pieces like planters and colour blocks to bring colour back to anywhere you want if you want to put the time into the cosmetic side of the game. And there's a fair amount of different cosmetic blocks to unlock too, of varying shapes and sizes if you really want to go all out on your builds. And these are all unlocked as part of a vast tech tree. Tectonica's tech tree can be annoyingly both simple and complex at the same point. From an overview standpoint, you have everything split into multiple categories along the bottom. The tree itself is broken into 4 segments, one for each main terminal that you find, and is leveled separately. You do this by completing repair milestones, which mean giving specific resources, and sometimes power too, to the outpost terminal. You then have different individual unlocks of the tree being unlocked by one of 4 different types of cores that you can build, and each progressive core involves using the previous core in its production. Thus for research unlocking alone, your factory can get pretty complicated. And these individual unlocks can also be double locked. So, not just by accessing the right point at the tree, but some of these unlocks, mostly for machines, will need to be scanned first. So you'll need to keep an eye out while exploring the various levels of decaying equipment. But through scanning all these old machines, you will not just unlock this tech in the tech tree, but you will also get free machines back after that point or parts to make them. So it's always worth doing. Part of the problem I had was with the lack of information around the recipe unlocks, which is part of a larger lack of recipe information in general. You simply can't look up what recipes are available to make a specific thing, and which ones are more efficient than others. It doesn't follow a simple logical progression of materials, and sometimes factories even work backwards. You have to literally unlock and build out a whole new factory line just to test and get the numbers for the material ratios and steps involved. And this frustrated me to no end. The manual crafting menu can give you some information on what's made from what, but overall I wasted hours checking and rechecking, writing notes, losing notes, and I feel the game could have at least given me some of this information in some way. And this is made especially difficult when, for certain things, as I said earlier, you run your factory backwards, either by splitting resources back into lesser ones, or deconstructing parts into their components instead. But you'll have to play the game to figure out why that happens. Note this doesn't actually stop you from completing the game, it's just something I personally found quite frustrating. Another issue I found was the numbers displayed on the transfer machines that move your parts to and from the machine and the belts were wrong for anything that transferred larger stacks instead of one object at a time. And this is highly annoying for a factory game, especially when you're trying to either saturate a belt as much as possible or matching incoming or outgoing amounts. And while this can occasionally be solved by just adding an extra arm or two, scaled up over an entire factory, well, that becomes a massive waste of materials just because it can't give you the right numbers. And the main fault here is the design of having an arm itself that moves between the source and the destination, where other games like Dyson Sphere Program, for example, just have a constant feed with their transfer units instead. Although I feel slightly spoiled by Satisfactory, which is my preference, of just having the belt run out of the machine. And I think that would have worked way better in this game. But the game isn't a pure factory builder either. We have a story that gives you many questions to answer and a reason to explore the world. And this is one of Tectonika's greatest strengths. Getting access to new floors means not only new tech, but more story too, as you slowly find out more and more about the original mission, why you are there, and why you need to escape. This of course on top of who you are and why you have no memory of anything. Progression is not strictly linear to the floors either. Sometimes you will have to advance to a new floor, some will be down to the tech that you've got unlocked, but for the most part this won't stop you advancing to more floors. It's really up to you and your factory in how fast you progress in specific areas. The late game, however, will see you absolutely scale up beyond anything you have made up to that point. The story itself would come in bursts as you reach new areas, or new tech levels would help you unlock small ruins that you find. All of it wonderfully presented through voice-acted dialogue lines.
I don't understand. A factory the size of a city is supposed to be here. It was right here. I know it was. Where is everybody?
As a 1.0 release, you would think that this would finish the story, and while technically true, I was a little let down by the ending, which for me felt indefinitive. Without spoiling anything, of course, it felt like I had one last task to do and one final choice to make. But when it got to that point of finishing that task, nothing happened. No congrats, you completed the game, no visual sequence, no showing the outcome, no credits rolled, you just kept playing, but with no tasks left to complete. I even had to check with the devs that nothing had bugged out again. But nope, that was indeed the ending, and it's something I hope the devs will at least improve upon, along with other additional quality of life improvements in the future. Would this stop me from recommending it though? Not at all. I really enjoyed the journey of the story despite its lack of climax to it, as well as completing the various challenges I was faced with and solving all of the different factory problems. And apart from the quality of life recipe issues, the game is well polished. I also like how some areas you would find are laid out as an example for how you might want to set up your own version of a part of a factory, or even repair and restore by replacing all these parts and getting it working again. And there really is no wrong way to build your factory. And I hardly ran into any bugs during the over 100 hours that I played this game. And when I did, these were solved by a very responsive dev team very quickly. And that bodes well for any new bugs that might be found later by a wider audience. And we know for many games 1.0 is not the end of improvements too, so if you do like factory games then certainly give it a shot. It's different enough and tries new things within the genre, and also once the community does its thing with wiki information and build planners, some of these issues can be worked around too. Now please give the like button a little tickle if you enjoyed this review, and leave any questions in the comments below. Subscribe for more sci-fi gaming content and reviews, and I'll see you in the next one. Kenator, out.